take it easy. Okay, here we have the two motorcycles that I used the Innovate AF meter on. It's a 2007 XR 650L and a 97 1200 Bandit. So we'll look at the 650 first. You can see here it's got the flat slide carburetor there, the Mikuni. Came with the intake on there. I mean the intake to the carburetor, the throat, FMF muffler. It's been de-snorkeled. It got a few other things on it. Don't really want to get into that. That's not the purpose of the video. So yeah, go ahead and start it up. You can see how it runs. Obviously the meter's not on here anymore. I used it on this and I put it on that. We're going to go for a ride in a little while on the Bandit. So there we go. Yeah, starts right up. Idles, runs good. Real happy with it. I rolled it on with a buddy of mine who has the same bike. His bike is de-snorkeled, got a pipe, and he has got a jet kit. And I pulled him about a bike length per gear. I weigh probably 20 pounds more than him, and he had one tooth more on the rear, but he's got an O-ring chain, so probably pretty fair. And we did it 3 times, and yeah, it definitely the flat slide helps. So I'll go ahead and wick it up a little bit. You can hear it's doesn't have a lot of like sputter or bog like the stock carburetors do. Idle's perfect, runs great, real happy with it. Okay, so that's the Thumper. Now the Bandit, we're going to actually ride the Bandit either later today, this afternoon, or this evening. Yeah, I got to wait till dark, otherwise the meter doesn't really come out that well. The light, but I can turn it on. Basically, with the AF meters, the sensor has to warm up before you get a good reading. So yeah, 19,000 miles. I bought it new in '97. Real happy with it. So yeah, we'll take this for a ride later. Oh, let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna take this off my sensor's right here. That's where, that's where the pickup is for it. Just ran it up the frame. So, yep, we'll later. We'll check it out. I'm really happy with the way this bike runs. So, we'll check it out later. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the wideband sensor. I used an Innovate Power Sports model. It actually does a lot more than I need. It's got a data logger, etc., etc. Comes with a Bosch sensor, but it was a little pricey, and you could definitely do better. What the system measures is the air to fuel ratio, and what that is the mass of air divided by the mass of fuel. They have what's called the stoichiometric ratio. That's where the ideal combustion, where the fuel is completely burned. And you have different ideal ratios for different types of fuel. There's nitromethane, ethanol, gasoline with different amounts of ethanol. For me, I use pump gas, high test, typically 0 to 10% ethanol. So I'm using the 5% ethanol as a guide, 14.4. So yeah. So as far as the target ratio, the target ranges, depending on what you have in a motor, for instance, if you're running a turbo or a supercharger, you're going to want to be much richer than say 12.5 to 13.5. But for a naturally aspirated air oil cooled motor, that's the typical range for maximum power, 12.5 to 13.5. Then you have part throttle acceleration, maybe 13.5 to 14, and then you have economy. It is going to run a little bit hotter in economy, but you're going to be at low throttle settings, 14 to 15. So when you place the sensor on your bike, whichever bike you use, you want to make sure you're well upstream of the muffler. As you can see on the Suzuki, I put it in the collector. You don't want to be too close to the muffler because you'll get false lean readings. For my flat slide on the Thumper on the 650, I ended up, I bought the carburetor from Niche Cycle. It came pretty much pre-jetted, but I had a low AF ratio, which is very, very rich at idle. So I started experimenting with the pilot jet and the pilot air jet. I actually lowered the pilot from a 25 to a 17.5 and the pilot air a 1.1 to a 0.8, which goes in the opposite direction as the pilot jet. Long story short, I couldn't tune out the 10.5. I suspect at idle the big bore of the Thumper wasn't getting good mixing or something. I did have to use 6-inch extended throttle cable. Anyway, I ended up setting up my accelerator pump to where as soon as the slide comes up, it squirts the jet of fuel right below the slide, and pretty much all the way until 7/8 throttle, the accelerator pump is on. As a side note, I did take off the left side airbox cover, and the AF ratio didn't change. So that basically tells me that the people who drill holes in the covers and stuff, depending on the bike, it doesn't really help that much. I did have it was de-snorkeled, and has a large entrance at the top. So that's the flat slide. Going on to the Bandit. Stock CV carbs. I did get a jet kit for it at one time. It came with needles with a steeper taper. At the time, it didn't run that well with them, so I put the stock needles in, shimmed them up 100 thousandths of an inch, about 2.5 millimeters, put an extra 2-inch hole in the back of the airbox, and it ran okay, I guess, on non-ethanol fuel. I went with once they switched over to ethanol fuels, it actually runs a little bit leaner, and I had a pretty bad flat spot at about a quarter throttle or so, and I didn't know how lean it was until I put the AF meter on there. So it was about a 15.5, even when it was warmed up. So I ended up putting the steeper needle on there. The name of the company was Factory. If you want to look for some needles, the stock needle doesn't have the clip positions, but this one does. I ran it on the second clip. Let's see. Oh, when I tuned it, it was about 65 degrees outside. Now it's summertime in South Florida, and it's hot, like 95, I think, the other day, or when I'm getting ready to ride, actually. It's about 95 degrees. I filmed that the other day, and it dropped the air-fuel ratio by about 0.5. Let's see, it's richer. So when it was cooler, it ran a little bit leaner. So yeah, you've got my readings more or less there. You'll see when I ride, it kind of fluctuates a little bit. So, all right, well, let's go for a ride. See how the AF meter works. First thing I want to show is the bike is completely cold. It's a cold start, so see how she does. Okay, like I said earlier, the sensor has to heat up, so I full choke. See what we got. Okay, well, there we go. So bike is it's really cold-blooded, so I'm gonna take it for a ride out to the Everglades. The sensor should be heated up here. Another 10 or 15 seconds. Hopefully it's coming out on the video. It'll kick up to 11 or 12 or whatever. There we go. It'll take a few miles to heat up. It's cold, it runs lean, so you'll see. What's my wife doing out in my car? Yeah, right. Nice. There's the idle. That's about right. 13.5, 13.4. Is second gear, 2000 RPM, fifth gear. I'm gonna open it up completely like a total goon, and it'll run great. Look at that. No stutter, no stumble. It goes a little rich because it loses velocity through the carburetor. Of course, you know. Normally, I don't ride like that. That's why it went down into the 11s. We'll do it again up here. right, well, I just want to thank everybody for watching.